and childhood hunger through effective programs that provide kids with the food they need. It was an anonymous nomination, I'm assuming.
It was, yes.
The nomination, so throughout the month of May, they're taking the opportunity to celebrate our Michigan School Food Heroes and their commitment to ensuring that students have the nutrition they need to learn. Mike was nominated, and what they said about Mike was Mike runs the food department district-wide. He's always filling in when needed and staffs well. He works tirelessly, and he truly cares about his students. So thank you, Mike. We appreciate the work.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Good job. Next on the agenda is, I'm going to introduce Justin Trumka. He's here on behalf of the middle school, and he's brought some special guests with us.
Okay, so we have a couple presentations tonight, and I'm actually going to hand this off to Miss Katie Serhall, and unfortunately, Miss Herrick couldn't be here, but they're going to discuss our peer-to-peer program and what's been going on this year.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. We're really excited to talk to you about peer-to-peer. So this is the second year of the peer-to-peer program. We had our first run last year. We have had some great peers this year, and I have some of them with me right now. So they're going to talk to you a bit about the program, but we are called Anchor Crew. So those are our shirts. And without further ado, I'm going to let them talk to you a little bit about what peer-to-peer is all about. So Savannah's going to start us off.
The goal of the peer-to-peer program is to shape a welcoming environment and provide academic opportunities for neurodiverse students. In peer-to-peer, we aren't trying to be leaders, we're just trying to be a friend who's there when needed.
Our purpose is to show support for all students, no matter what their needs. It is crucial to understand the challenge someone may be going through and to support them when necessary.
Peer-to-peer is a program in which students model academic and social skills in the natural school environment. Peers provide support for students with neurodiversity, such as autism, attention deficits, and other brain-based differences.
Students in peer-to-peer benefit from the program immensely, no matter their ability. Skills are improved by those who engage and are passionate about others. This program helps within students, opening new points of view and social interactions.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Kate Steffen, and I'm in 6th grade at GIMS. I am also in the Anchor Crew. This year, we have learned more about neurodiversity and how the brain works. We formed new friendships, we played games, and we were kind to one another. And we practiced school behavior, and I earned a fun party to celebrate my successes and accomplishments. So I want to thank everyone for having this impact on me. I really love my peers. They always have a great attitude and sparkling personalities. Thank you, school board, for being compassionate and generous. And now it is with deep honor and pleasure that I present to the one and only, I don't know who is next. Kinsley.
The overall outcome the peer-to-peer program is providing for our students is ongoing friendships and new skill sets to use going forward. It also provides social benefits that can be used in the future.
And these are just some pictures that we've had throughout the year of different things that we've done, and that's more of the group. So it's a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade class. So we have Evan is from the 7th grade peer-to-peer group, Savannah's from the 8th grade, and then Kinsley, Savannah, Chloe, and Kate are from 6th grade. So thank you so much for letting us present.
Thank you. It's awesome. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Great job. Great job.
So I really do just want to give a shout out to Kate, Heather, and all these kids. You know, it was really just about inclusion, changing the culture, and just about love. And right now, can we use a little bit more of that? So they've just done an amazing job. So I just really wanted to do a shout out to them. Our next presentation are two of our outstanding kids that went on the Washington, D.C. trip. So they knew that they were going to be representing their entire class this year and created a presentation. And I also want to give a shout out to Miss Park and Miss Lehman, who can't be here this evening, for all the work that they have done this past year in creating that. So without further ado, Austin and Enzo.
Hi, everybody. We're just here to present about the DC trip. So.
You have the clicker.
Clicker.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oops.
There you go.
All right. So on day one, it was pretty cool. Well, we did have to wake up at like 2 a.m. It was kind of worth it. While not much happened, we did get to see Gettysburg, which was really cool because we got to see what we were learning about with the Civil War, and it kind of helped us understand all that. So that's about it.
Okay. On the second day, we got up really early and we went to the National Zoo and we got to see like all the monkeys and stuff, which was pretty cool because I like monkeys. And then we went to the park thing and we got to see like the White House and some memorials like the World War I memorial. And I thought that was pretty cool. And we went to the International Trade Center, like food court for lunch. And then we went to the Holocaust Museum, which was pretty cool. And then we went to the Pentagon City Mall for dinner. And then after that, we went to the Washington Wizards game.
Oh.
Which was really cool, and I think they should do something like that again next year because that was just pretty sweet.
All right, so on day 3, pretty cool day. We got to go to Arlington National Cemetery and do a wreath laying ceremony, and that was really cool. It was kind of very moving and all that. And we got to see the FDR and MLK memorials, which were very interesting. I'd never seen them before, and I thought they were one of my favorite memorials that we saw. The National Cathedral was super cool because it was very pretty. And also we got to see the Air and Space Museum, which it's cool seeing the history of all the, like, I don't know what it's called, but the aircrafts, yeah. And then we went to the Smoky Glen Farm, which was an interesting dinner. But it was pretty fun. We got to just hang out. And on to day 4.
On day 4, we went to Mount Vernon, and I thought that was super cool because we got to like go around like the whole place, and we got to see all of George Washington's house, and we got to see where he was like in the tomb at too with his wife, which was pretty cool. And then after that, we went until lunchtime, and then we went to Roy Rogers for lunch, which was cool. And I've never been there, so I don't think there is one around here. So it was pretty cool to go there and eat there because I've never had it before. And then after that, we went to like take the group photo at the Grant statue by the Capitol building, which was cool. Except my hair looked really bad that day, so I was mad, but oh well. And then after that, we went to the National History Museum and the American History Museum and the Art Museum, which those were pretty sweet. There was so much stuff in there that was just amazing to see because I've never seen anything like that up close before, and it was just amazing. And then after that, we went to dinner at this Nighthawk place, which was pretty cool. Never been there either. And then after we went on the night tour, which the night tour was amazing. We got to see the 9/11 memorial, and we got to see the Pentagon Memorial. I mean, the Washington Memorial, and it was like lit up at night, and it looked really cool. And then after that, we went to the U.S. Marine Corps Memorial, which was also lit up because it was nighttime, and that was really sweet too.
All right, on day 5, we got to see the Naval Academy, which was an interesting place. And that's about it. We kind of just drove home. Very uneventful, but still fun. That's about it.
Great job.
So I will say the one cool thing about the Naval Academy is we did get to meet up with a couple of our alum that are pictured on the bottom there, Drew Ramirez and Mitch Lewis. So that was really nice that we got to see
That's very cool.
too. So they attend there. All right. Once again, guys, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Park, for all the work
Thank
that goes
you.
into the DC trip.
She's like, thank you, I can go. Thank you for coming.
They're free.
Great job.
All right. So the next thing that we've been doing, or that we'd like to present on, is the Parents on Patrol program that was implemented this year. So obviously with COVID, our buildings got shut down. This was a big push to bring the community back into the building. Last year, it's no secret, there were some issues that we had in the bathroom, and we just need additional support. So why not use our community, right? We wanted to get the parents in there, see what was going on in the middle school, and just have them be there, extra eyes, ears, walk around. So this year, we started a Parents on Patrol program. So it's very similar to the Watchdogs program at the elementary, except we kind of middle schooled it up. And so we asked for volunteers to just come in, look, take a walk around, help us with drop off and pick up and buses and all that, and just actually be extra eyes, ears, get the kids to class on time, which is kind of a foreign concept at the middle school, but working through that. So a few of our volunteers, that was at the very beginning of the year. We got a little bit of pictures. I'm not too great at taking pictures with everybody, but as requested, those vests are Gucci. They're orange. I'm like, yes, they are, but they're Gucci, so it's fine. But one of the major things this year, not only being able to get the community in there, but there has been an 84% decrease in bathroom referrals. So I track everything, ODRs. So we have not had as many as we did last year. So the program, I would say, so far has been a success. We want to continue to get parents in here. So if you're watching, come on, volunteer. Come on in. We really do appreciate it. We've had a lot of volunteers this year. Most of them have been in multiple times. So we just, once again, want to invite the community in there, be part of the process.
You don't have to have children in the schools either.
No,
They just
no.
go through.
Yeah, so they just have to go through. We got to just make sure they're good to go. But we can sign up online, and all that stuff is through our website. Or if you have any questions, just contact the school, and we can get you guys hooked up. So.
Are they there all day? Is it an all-day?
So, no, you don't have to. If you just want to come for a couple hours, I mean, it's really tough for someone to be there all day. So a lot of people just come in the morning or in the afternoon or whatever. But, even if you want to be there for just 2 hours or whatever, feel free. My feeling is the more the merrier, right? So
Sure.
that's everything.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions for Justin? Anything? Good job. Thank you. What was the farm that they went to eat at?
So,
I'm sorry, because
Huckleberry Farms, for whatever reason, we call it Huckleberry Farms. Last year was the first time we went there, and it's like a barbecue place, and it's just the kids get to be kids. The parents, they tend to go out to dinner, and the kids just get to hang out. There's a DJ, dance party, putt-putt, volleyball. It's just where kids can be kids for, a little bit. It's not as structured of a time, so, yeah, it's really nice. It is the most exhausting thing you could ever do if you haven't been on it, but it is awesome. It is definitely the way to see DC. We really made an effort to make sure that it wasn't just a trip this year, but that we're tying into the curriculum. One of the highlights, I wish the boys would have really talked about it, but is the Vietnam Memorial. And the artifacts that they take to that memorial were excellent this year. They were so good. And it's really a point of pride, I'll be honest. So it was a great trip again.
Good job. Good job.
Well,
Thank you.
Justin, I just want to say I've really noticed this year that you're doing so many innovative things at the middle school to really engage kids in the community, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a great team, so really appreciate it. All right.
Good job.
Excellent.
Can't leave yet, though, can
We got another one.
And next on, you might as well just stay right there. Next, we have the ASU GVS conference update. We have Amy Brown, Superintendent Val Orr, Justin Trumka, and Audrey Kalis reporting. Did I miss anybody?
No, do you want us up there with you, or are you?
Wherever you feel comfortable.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'll just stand next to
Hanging
you.
up there. So I'll just start I'll start us off just to talk about how we arrived at going to this conference. This is the first time, I never even knew anything about it, but our work with the Future Learning Council is where we learned about this summit. And it's ASU GSV, which is Arizona State University, and then the GSV is Global Silicon Valley, and it's where they bring the two entities together to really discuss innovation and where the world is headed and how that's interconnected with education. We actually receive scholarships to go through the Future Learning Council, and I received a full scholarship, so it paid for everything, and then I was able to bring 3 more staff members with us, and it paid their conference fee, which is $1,500 a person. So it was big scholarships, and we just had to use some grant funds for the travel expenses, but it was pretty amazing. And so day one,
I'll start us off. So on day one, we were all lucky enough to get into an innovative school tour. And Val and I went to one tour, and Justin and Amy went to another. So we really tried to divide and conquer during the conference so we could get as much in as we could. But it is often nice to have a partner that you can kind of think tank with around the ideas. So the first day, Val and I started by going to 2 separate schools. The first one was a totally immersive foreign language experience for kids, where half of the day they would speak Spanish and half of the day they would speak English. Some of the students were Spanish-speaking students and some were English-speaking students at home, but regardless, they did a half and half of a day with the thought that by the time they left 5th grade, they would be fluent in both Spanish and English, no matter what language was spoken in their home, which was really amazing to see. A huge takeaway from that experience was the way the teachers taught to engage the students and just the larger than life teaching that they had to do in order to captivate those students so they would understand what they were saying, not in their native language. So the hand gestures, and I mean, we actually saw a teacher laying on the floor to pretend she was roots to a tree. I mean, they were just amazing educators that were exposing these students to language in a really great way. The reason we were really there, though, is to see Project Lead the Way, which is a really integrative curriculum around STEM. And that was really great for us as we look to increase our STEM programming through our strategic plan and through our bond work. So we were able to see an elementary school that just recently was building a STEM lab, and their thoughts behind how they would integrate their STEM lab into an elementary school. And they're going to do that through Project Lead the Way. It was really exciting to see that because it's hard to sometimes wrap our heads around building a STEM lab in the elementary, and then what will the kids do in that lab? And we know we have to change instruction, and we can't just fit what we already do and think that the STEM lab would be in use. So we had a lot of great ideas, and we were able to see a lot of good thinking around that. They're actually combining their STEM lab with career exploration. So they're having students go down to the STEM lab and explore different careers in STEM, and those are the activities they do in that STEM lab, which was really awesome to see, and it exposes kids to things that they don't even know are out there at a very young age, and definitely something we could do here. So that was really great to see.
So they talked a lot about how it was really important to them that they didn't build a STEM lab and then hope teachers would use it, but that they actually created a curriculum where it was already set up for the teachers to be able to use it with their kids, which was really great to see, and it really helped our thinking around the curriculum development side of the STEM, lab when we get it.
The next school we went to was a high school level. And I believe Val and I got to meet one of the best educators in America at this place. This man was so innovative, and nothing was going to keep him down. He was an outside of the box thinker who was just in it for kids, 100%. And they had a very old and beyond repair tennis court at their school, and they weren't going to fix it. It was just an eyesore. So one day he went there with a jackhammer and he thought, I'm going to build a garden and I'm going to apologize for it later. So he ended up with,
ideas out.
so maybe we don't want to do that. However, I like his gumption. And you can see from these photos, he has started this garden that the students tend to as an elective course. It's an amazing garden that feeds the community and feeds families in need in the community. And he took it a step further and started raising tilapia at this garden because the waste from the tilapia is really good for the growth of the plants, and they circulate that water through the system and through the plants, making their vegetable production higher than anyone around.
Kids built all that. They built everything you see. They built the pond, they built the system, the water filtration, all of it.
And this man just said, we're doing it. Kids, who wants in? And brought him along. So through that, since all of that happened and they had all this food and they were giving it to people in the community who were food scarce, they also thought, what a cool opportunity for someone on our staff to become CTE certified in culinary. So an English teacher became CTE certified in culinary. They built where you can't see in these photos, right behind it, an outdoor kitchen with grills and big spaces for cutting and chopping, and they take the food right from their garden and they do a culinary experience for students who want to do that as well. So it was really just great to see that outside of the box thinking around elective programming and CTE programming. Again, it goes right back to our strategic plan of just thinking outside of the box for our kids, especially at the secondary level, and what we can do for our programming that can look something similar to that. It was just inspiring.
It really
too.
was. And Audrey and I, we kept laughing because he kept talking about the powers that be. And we just did this and, we weren't really sure what the powers that be, would think. And I was like, Audrey, I think we're the powers that be.
I'm like, we might be.
And I'm like, but little does he know, we're all about this. And we want our teachers to come up with this kind of stuff so that we can support it and, encourage it. And so it was amazing.
A huge takeaway was, for Val and I think, how can we encourage our staff to be that person who sees an empty tennis court and says, I can do something here, and has that spark.
So Justin and I went on a school tour as well. Our building was K-8, and it was a building in a bigger district, and it just one single building that they call a Design 39 school. So very, again, outside the box thinking, all kinds of different things. These are a couple of pictures of their maker spaces. And so we were really looking at that with our band coming and the things that we're doing. What could we do here? So one of them was a studio. They have a fully functioning news program that they were doing with kids, 3D printer. And then the last picture is a workshop. Justin and I both kind of laughed because it was housed in the lower elementary piece. So imagine first and second and third graders with full sets of tools. They build things and they make things. And so the overlying theme of the entire day was that we have to trust kids because they're capable of so much more than we give them. Yeah. And so if we give them the right tools, then they can do amazing things. So it was a really cool place to be. There was no bells or anything. At one point we looked around and we're like, there's really no grown-ups and there's all these children. And they were very self-managed. And we talked about that a little bit and the team just said, this is how we trust our kids. Their library doesn't have a checkout system. They just, if you need a book, you go get a book, and when you're done, you bring it back. And so we had lots of great conversations with the staff because they've been 9 years?
Yep.
9 years? So some growing pains in all of that time, and kind of getting people on board and knowing what they want to do and what the vision for their school is. They spend the first hour of every single day essentially PLCing. That's what they do. So the kids come an hour after staff gets there. And they come together and they problem solve every single day with their teams. And that has proven to be very successful for them. And now they were at a place where they were kind of having a hard time getting students to come in, but now they have a wait list. So they're doing some good work, and their test scores are continuing to increase.
Before I go on, as Amy was saying, the whole concept was definitely built on trust and working together. So anytime that there was an obstacle or hurdle, they talked about it. They talked through it. The cool thing also about the maker spaces was that how versatile they are. It's not that we decided this is going to be, a woodshop class and then that's what it is and how they built it. It was that could be that this hour, not even this day, but but this hour, and now another teacher wants to go in and change it up, and we're going to use it as an art space, or we're going to use it to do this, or whatever. Everything was on wheels, everything was movable, the walls opened. It was just completely versatile. So the teachers there were also encouraged to teach different classes about what they were passionate about. So there was one teacher, I think was it yarn or something like that. She really wanted to get into knitting and yarn and all that. So they have a class on that now. But it's literally just thinking outside the box. What are we experts in? How do I transition my passion for real world education and transition that to the kids? So it was just really cool experience.
So overall, our learning around day one, there was we experienced just conversations about real-time coaching. This is where districts are using instructional coaches to give real-time feedback using an earpiece. So just imagine our coaches, the teacher will have an earpiece, and as the teacher is teaching, the coach in the classroom will be talking to Mike that'll be fed right into the earpiece, so that the teacher, instead of waiting for the plan, teach, debrief meeting, they can make adjustments right on the spot, right then and there, and get that real-time coaching. So that was really cool to see. We also met with a new vendor. So a lot of the people from global Silicon Valley were new startups that were looking for investors to invest in whatever, technology, mainly technology that they had come up with. And then we as educators, they were like talking to us and getting our ideas about what works and what didn't and things like that. We met with someone from this TeachFX, which is a technology software that allows teachers to receive analytical data about student discourse in their classroom. So if you remember last year, we talked a lot about our focus in the district around student talk, because who does the talk does the learning. And we really want to transition from our teachers doing all the talking to our kids doing all the talking. And this software it gives data back to the teacher after a lesson and reports to them not only how much talking was happening with kids or with staff, but what kind of talking, the rigor, the type of vocabulary the kids were using. It's amazing. And then a lot of conversation around AI. This was for 3 days. We talked about artificial intelligence. And I'll be honest with you, going into that conference, I had a mindset of, oh my God, this is awful, and we should block it, and and then coming out of it, it was like a realization of AI is here. AI will always be here, and it'd be like blocking the internet when the internet came out. Like, we have to teach our kids how to use it and how to manage it and how to use it to improve their lives and in ways in which they do that. And we can't keep them from it. That's doing them an injustice. So there was so much conversation about AI in education, how it'll impact quality of life. What do our students need from us in order to be better prepared in a world of AI? Because that's what they're going to be entering. There's no doubt about it.
Well, we're always preparing our kids for the global economy, and we say that. But even myself, I think that this is the first time I've been at a conference or experienced anything where I really understood what that meant now.
Yeah, true.
They were talking about, India and how, that's the next hotspot for just development and the AI and just everything. Like, we have to trust our kids and make sure that we're not getting in their way.
Yes.
To put it simple.
Day 2 was exciting. Bill Gates was there as a keynote speaker. So, I mean, it was a big conference when you bring in names like that. But a really exciting part of day 2 was the GSV Cup, which is where startup companies from EdTech pitch to a group of people, other people who've made it in ed tech, and to an audience, their company. And then we were all able to vote. And the next day, they were awarded the GSV Cup. And I believe like $1 million? $1 million. So that was pretty exciting. Everything from like a student Uber system to really a MyStar-ish platform for preschools, social emotional platforms, a way to get educators placed in the right jobs. I mean, it wasn't just student learning, it was everything around education. And that was really interesting to watch.
Really blew my mind about just the way, how different we have to start thinking about post-secondary. There was so much conversation at this conference that it almost makes you wonder how long post-secondary is going to be around. Because a lot of these companies were talking about the skills gap. And when it takes 4 years to get a degree, you're out of date with your skills. And so they talked about some of the things that we saw in the GSV Cup was how to take students right out of high school and actually train them like on the spot for the job that so it's almost like you skip right over. It was unbelievable, the conversations that we were a part of and how it was like mind blowing for us as leaders in this field to not think traditionally, or, you know, we gotta really start thinking about the future that our kids are facing.
It wasn't even about training them specifically for skills, but how to think.
Yes.
How to be adaptable, and how to think analytically, but yet have that personal background, how to be able to talk to someone and communicate with someone, and not just through technology, but how to present, how to that human element. The one thing that they kept talking about is the human element will never go away, and how important that is.
Oh, I can do it. So our learning around day 2, I actually skipped ahead, but it was a lot of, like I said,
passing it to you.
Yeah, it's transformation of higher ed and how we need to really think about that the new world places emphasis on skills, not pedigree now, and what does this mean for K-12? Content creators, there was a lot of conversation about, in order to prepare students for the future, we must give them opportunities to engage in rich, authentic tasks that are high quality, where they create their own content, where it's like that creative human element that, you know, AI or a computer cannot do. Even like thinking about AI, you know, do we continue to teach our kids how to write an essay when AI can do that for them? Or do we teach our kids how to critique an essay that AI wrote, which is a higher actual, you know, ability to be able to, it takes a higher skill to be able to do that. And then the future of assessment. So if the outcomes are different in terms of what the new world is needing from our kids, how we assess their ability to do that, paper, pencil, multiple choice, those things are not going to give us the information, you know, to show us that kids are going to be able to, you know, build a pond and create a whole system to grow vegetables. Like, you can't get that from a paper and pencil test. So there was a lot of conversation around that within the day 2.
Keep going. And then
That was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That was. He was there on the final day when they awarded the GSV Cup winner, and he just spoke to innovative educators in his life and teachers in his life, and they give out some awards around that too. It was mind-blowing is a good way to describe it. This was a conference like no other that I've ever been to. We would be down for a keynote at 7 o'clock, and we would still be keynoting at 9 o'clock at night. There was we never stopped. It was just learning. It was quite overwhelming, but in the best way. But on day 3, we learned about mastery-based assessment. And on the next slide, I'm going to talk about assessment a little more, so I will save that for then. AI with tutors. AI is radically changing the scope of education so much, and that was right in our face here more than we have ever witnessed before. And we were able to meet as a group of Michigan educators who were there on this last day, which was really great. And the person who was leading our discussion said, we have to find each other because we're coming back with ideas that are so foreign to people back home that we need to lean into each other, because we're going to sound a bit crazy because it's so different. And we really had a lot of conversation, like Justin was saying, about how we make ourselves as educators uniquely human, because that is so important. And what do we have to offer that AI cannot? Because AI is radically changing so much that you can put a AI tutor in front of a student. You can pick exactly what they look like, and it does not look like any sort of robot. You can make it look exactly how you want. It looks like a person on that screen speaking to you. And they even read facial expressions and the dilations of your pupils to know if a child is understanding or not. So they would say, Audrey, I see you're not understanding that. Let me explain it again. So what do we have to offer as human educators that doesn't have to offer? Right? And so that was a huge conversation that we had because we're entering a new world.
When she's talking about that, that's not stuff of the future. That's stuff now.
It's in there. We actually were able to see a creator of ChatGPT. He spoke to us via his car on a Zoom and said, I have so much more to release, but it would be irresponsible for me to do so at this time.
So the world's not ready for it.
Yeah, so it's very interesting how radically education is changing, and we just have to be there to embrace it and do the best we can for our students. I think that covers that. And then I won't read all of this, but it goes back to that first bullet point that talked about assessment. If education is radically changing, then our assessment has to radically change with it. And the three of us were able to see a panel speak about what that may look like, because it doesn't look like that yet. And how are we going to do things at a district level to honor our students and the qualities that are important to a learner, because our states aren't there yet. An MSTEP test doesn't measure necessarily important qualities of an individual. It measures just knowledge. And knowledge is important, it's very important, but there are other things that we need to measure as well. So we were talking about changing our assessments, some of them to be hands-on and to show a model and to be able to draw and talk and explain something to a teacher. Our assessments should match how students learn. So if students learn best by speaking and seeing, then they should be able to be assessed in that same way. We learned that 92% of teachers do not use or grade open response questions because they're hard to grade and they're very time consuming, so they just skip them. But it's within the open response questions that we really get to if the student knows the information. So all of these topics really made our brains start thinking, and we were like, yes, and we want to do this, and we want to do this. So just a lot around assessment. We have a lot of fun work to do. And then if anyone wants to talk about the winner that got $1 million, it was pretty exciting.
You guys can do that. I had to come home on day 2, so.
Your wheelhouse, Amy.
So the winner was Maro, and it really is a social emotional connection piece. It reminded me of Care Solace in a way. But it goes a step further. So it does some analyzing of mental health with students and things like that. It gets them services they need, but it also has an entire piece of here are social emotional lessons for teachers to teach. It was just to see, and we've all actually kind of looked at the app and looked at the different capabilities it has, and there's some really neat stuff in
There is.
So like even mental health and social emotional lessons are there for us just to look at and kind of build things around. So it was definitely beneficial.
That's it.
I just wanted to once again just thank, actually it was Michigan Virtual University who provided the scholarships to the folks who are a part of the Future Learning Council. And, this is just something that we would have never been able to do on our own as a district. So just wanted to thank the folks from Michigan Virtual who are leading this work and helping, get educators from Michigan to be a part of this. And we just really appreciated it and hope. I also, I think I mentioned to Katie, when you had talked last year about possible conferences for the board, and I thought about, we had talked about MASA and some of the other things. If the board is ever able to get out and go to a conference, this is the one I would suggest that you go to. It's absolutely, in terms of the work we do and our roles and moving a district forward and taking us to the next great place and actually being really innovators, right, in this area and being the best of the best and doing what's right for our kids, this is exactly where it's at. And it was really powerful. It was probably, would you guys agree, it was probably the most impactful conference I've ever been to in my career.
Like I'm at the end of kids in school, right? I only have one left after a couple more days. And all I could think was, gosh, I kind of want to go back through again. With all of the cool stuff that's coming.
Yeah.
Because there's so much goodness that's coming for these kids and for them to be able to do and innovate.
So thank you, everyone. I don't know if there's any questions or anything.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming.
have an update from the business office, a presentation on. With the
Poor
ESSER.
Linda, you got to follow that.
That's not true.
No, I'm kidding. All right, I'm just going to speak today really about our ESSER funds and how much we've received and where we spent it, and it's coming to an end. So, there. Oh, no. It's got like the. Let me try it again. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to talk about, as I said, ESSER funding, but I also want to talk about some of our recurring grants. For the fiscal year 22-23, our recurring grants, and these are not just for this year, they've been recurring grants for a number of years. We have our title grants, which include Title I, Title II, 3, and 4. We have 31A, which is at-risk funding, IDEA, which is special education, and for those dollar amounts, those are just for this fiscal year. So for 22-23, our title, all of those total $208,063. 31A at-risk money is $226,865, and our IDEA special education is $492,146. For those recurring grants, those are typically predictable. They typically go up a little bit each year. Sometimes they go down if we don't use them, but the next year they'll go up because we can have those carryover monies, and that money will carry over to the next year. One-time funding, in this instance that we're talking about, is COVID-related grants. COVID-related grants started in March of 2020, obviously with the onset of COVID-19, and we need to spend those funds by September 30th of 2024, which is basically a year from now. So that's why we wanted to kind of bring this, to your attention to show, hey, this is the money that we're receiving, and then, how much of that is ending. Through the end of this year, we are going to receive roughly $3.4 million. Totally, we're going to receive about 3.9. That extra is for next year's funding. On top of that, this year, the state had some budget categoricals. God bless you. They had Section 31AA, which is mental health, and that is $184,543. And then there were some security grants, Sections 97, there's a C and D. Those totaled $243,995. All of those will expire next June. So we do have, time to spend those money, but again, those are time limited. So all of these one-time fundings, there's a time limit to spend those, as well as there's certain stipulations. For the COVID, on a lot of the grants, there's many stipulations of, how to use those monies, as well as limited uses. Okay, it's the side, right? I don't want to, yeah. This graph shows of those recurring grants, how much money we've received over the last few years. The red or orange line is the IDEA, and again, we've continuously received that. It goes up a little bit. Last year, we did receive about $50,000 as a one-time special funding. So you see that dip or uptick, and then you see the dip coming down because that was a one-time funding. The light blue are the title funds, and again, that's pretty steady throughout the years unless there was a carryover. And last year, we didn't use all the funding, so we did have a little bit of an uptick there. Section 31A at risk, that grant has been pretty steady for our school district, roughly between $45,000 and $50,000. In this fiscal year, there was an increase in that funding through the state aid, and we received $226,000. So significant increase for us in that grant area. This particular grant it's interesting but kind of confusing because it shows in that short amount of time, how much, money, we had to spend in, within that time frame. So on the right, you'll see all of a multitude of COVID funds that we did receive, and all of those colors are in that graph. But you'll see, is there a pointer on this? No, I just messed it up. Sorry, Robin. In this middle, John?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I just pressed, and that's what it did. Okay, I'm not going to use the pointer. Anyway, you can kind of see that orange dot. Yeah, can you see that orange dot there? So that is one of our COVID funds. We received $644,000. Well, we spent that all in that 1 year. So that's why you'll see that the dot. So there's multitude of dots there that we've received the funding, and in that same year, we spent the money. The other funding is, you can see that it's stretched out over, a number of years. And that's basically, we were able to, when we got that money, we were able to spread it out over, different fiscal years. That last grayish area is our final ESSER monies. It's labeled 11T funds. And those we have to spend until September 30th of 2024. Those are the last funds that we'll be using for this next fiscal year coming up. This is a pie chart showing our total expended or budgeted amount. So we've either expended this or we've, budgeted for the next year and where we've spent it. The salaries and benefits is at 71.2%. Our purchase services, which are our subs or building subs and our touch point cleaners, we spent 6.7% of the funding. The PPE supplies, we've spent 5.3% of the money. Our testing materials and summer school supplies, 0.5%. Technology equipment as well as technology software, we've spent 15.4%, and our capital outlay was 0.8%. This next pie chart is actually what is being spent from July of 2022, which is the current fiscal year that we're in, and what we're going to be spending through September 30th of 2024. In the bottom right, it shows, how much money that we have for this fiscal year and next fiscal year. So it's about $1.9 million. And of that 1.9 million, 87.8 of that was or is going to be spent on salaries and benefits. 2.8 is on our building subs, and then our technology equipment and or software is at 9.4%. This is a graph that shows our general fund revenue and expenditures, and then it shows, how much of that is our general operating revenue, what is our one-time grants, as well as our recurring grants, and then the line is our actual expenditures. So in fiscal year 2020, you can see our general fund revenue is almost 19.8 million. And then we had recurring grants of about $520,000. The little pink line was the first COVID monies that we received that year, and that was about almost $14,000. And then the next year, you can see that opening or the gap is increasing for our COVID funds, which has ended up being almost $790,000. The next year, COVID funds were almost 1.5 million, and then in fiscal year 23, 926,000, and then next year, about 22,719. And then when you take a look at that, compared to our expenditures, you see our expenditures, we kept our general fund revenue and our general expenditures the same without reducing any of the new positions that we've created with COVID monies, saying, hey, okay, if we kept those same positions that we, implemented with COVID funds, where would we land? And you can see there's a big discrepancy with our, just our general fund revenue versus what our general fund expenditures would be if we were to keep those positions in the school district.
Yeah, this graph is probably the best graph that just shows that with the current revenue that we're receiving from the state, that we don't have the ability to absorb the programs that we put in place using the COVID dollars. Our general fund can't absorb those, unfortunately. It's also why we're a year out talking about this so that it doesn't run up on us. We need to be talking about it right now, talking to the people that are in those positions right now, and even thinking about how do we continue to help our kids without being able to have those positions in place. Or on the flip side, the conversations that we have in Finance Committee, which is, are there any other revenue streams out there that we have not yet tapped that we might be able to find another revenue stream to maybe close that gap to be able to sustain those positions? But I think this is the best graph to represent that.
And then we, as Val said, we got to start looking, strategically, what are we looking for? What are we doing for the next couple years? We do have a year out, we have, these funds allocated to certain positions. So, and these learning gaps that occurred during COVID are not going to stop, they're going to continue. So we do have to look at that as well. There's also hiring challenges. The lack of qualified applicants for some of these positions, they're not out there, and it's going to be difficult for the school districts to hire, qualified people. Then we have to look at, considering eliminating these positions, do we maintain them? We have to look at our seniority on the staff list. And then you might have to lay people off if we're going to eliminate some of these positions. So then you got to put that into the budget. So there's a lot of things that get to, take a look at. Another thing is the economic downturn. Inflation, this year, the inflation was, astronomical. Is that going to continue? We have to look at, planning for those reductions. Attrition, what happens with attrition is, okay, if we have somebody who retires, at a high pay scale, then we hire in at a lower pay scale, we have that savings, and does that align with our decreased enrollment? Do we, if that staff member does retire, do we need to replace that staff person? So we have to look at all of that when we're, looking at the budget. Also, do we offset those loss of grant funds with possible increases from the state fund side of things? For example, like the Section 31A. We were, as I said in the previous slide, we were getting like $45,000 to $50,000 in Section 31A. Now we're getting significantly more at $227,000. Can we, supplant some of those costs with that Section 31A funding? And then also, with these positions that we put in place, we have to evaluate those programs. Did they do what we wanted them to do? We have to look at those, the data that we have, and look at and make evidence-based decisions on that. So do we continue, do we reduce, or do we do we cut all those positions? The per pupil foundation, we are projected to have an increase for next year, and it's also looking that there will be an increase in the following year. To coincide with that, we have a declining enrollment. We're projecting our enrollment to go down the next 5 years, so we've got to also take a look at that. So even though we're getting an increase in our per pupil foundation, our student count is going down, so that increase is really being negated by that decline in enrollment. And I mentioned inflation, we have an increase in costs. Our utilities are going up. Our fuel costs for our transportation is going up. And then our general operating expenditures are also going up. And then how long will the inflation continue? And lastly, rainy day fund. We always talk about the rainy day fund. How much do you set aside? Do we even set aside funds? Can we even set aside funds? So that's something that we have to look at as well. And then we're looking at negotiations and the impacts of, potential negotiation contracts, the salaries and benefits, our health insurance cost increases. And again, looking at attrition, retirements, are there, any savings in that respect? So I think that was my last slide. Yep. So again, I'm following that nice presentation to that, so it's like, right? I know. So are there any questions?
I think that is the key. I think that to be looking at it now, so this doesn't creep up on us quickly. I mean, I'll be interested in seeing data on the positions, and if you feel like they benefited, and then we got to be strategic in how we support that.
And also look at alternative revenue streams. I mean,
Correct.
Any way possible, we can look at that, not just what to cut, but also what we can add.
Right. Any other comments for Linda? No?
Thank you, Linda. Good job.
You're welcome.
Next, I have board committee reports. I know we had finance. Katie, did you want to report out?
So Finance Committee met on Friday. That was Dan, Nadia, and I. We also had Val, Linda, Mike, and our attorney, John Cava there. We talked about the masonry repairs at Park Lane, which we will discuss later today, and Mike will take us through that. But essentially, during a previous site assessment, it was recognized that there was some masonry repair needed at Park Lane. It did not present a safety risk, so it was recommended to take place during the summer and when staff and students aren't in the building, but also before bond work begins, so we're prepped and ready for that. It's about $47,000, but we can go through the specific details when we talk about it as a discussion item. But the Finance Committee recommends moving forward with the repair. We also talked, as we discussed, alternate revenue sources. So Linda had taken us through this presentation previously in this financial cliff that we're approaching with these expiring grants. And I think, like we keep saying, in addition to looking at the expenses side and how we reduce that, we want to look at the other side of that equation. Instead of making our expenses meet our revenues, how do we get revenues to match what our expenses will be? So trying to think about what that might look like, whether there's grants, benchmarking other districts, considering a development manager or some type of campaign to increase revenues and funding. So Nadia volunteered to gather some information on that, and we'll discuss further at the next work session how we can approach that. And then we talked in closed session, which we'll talk about in closed session later today, and that was what we covered. Anything to add?
No, it's great.
Yeah. Any questions for Katie? Do we have any other committees meet? Nobody else needs to report out? Okay.
Moving on then to information and discussion. Next on the agenda is superintendent evaluation. I'll hand the floor to Nadia.
Yes, so last week the board completed our evaluation of Superintendent Orr. We used the MASB Superintendent Evaluation Tool. Mrs. Orr received a rating of highly effective. We especially appreciated her work on the bond and the strategic plan this year. And the board recognizes her leadership as well as dedication to the district and to all our students and appreciates her hard work this year. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Congratulations, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've done a great job. Your time commitment alone is amazing, the effort you put in and day out.
Can I just also just take this moment just to thank the board? We're a governance team, and sometimes people don't necessarily understand how superintendent and board works together to, run a school district. And I believe we had a successful year. I have a great team that works, with me, and I thank them as well for a successful year. But I also wanted to just truly thank the board for all your support this year and just your commitment to students. And I really appreciate working for a board that I have no doubt as the superintendent is absolutely here for the benefit of all children, which makes my job and the job of our team. It makes us want to come to work every single day and lead this district and do great work for kids because we're supported by an awesome board. So thank you all, and thank also Jeff, who's not, he's ill today, as well as John as well. So thank you all.
And next on the agenda is the first reading from Neola.
37-2.
Yes, volume 37-2. I'll just quickly go through them. We had a policy committee. I believe Scooter reported out on that at the last meeting. And we've talked about these, but this is the first reading, so no board action needs to be taken today. But we're recommending, or I'm recommending that policy 2623 be approved with the recommendations from Neola. That's the student assessment policy. Audrey and I reviewed this policy together and both recommend those changes. 6325 is procurement with federal grant funds. Linda also reviewed this, and we recommend moving forward with Neola's recommended changes so that we comply with the law. 8390, we reviewed as a policy committee, which is animals on district property. We talked about whether or not we wanted to pursue any change in this policy. This policy Neola put out because it was, some other school districts had requested it. We, at this time, not recommending any change in the current policy, so we're just keeping the policy as is, and the only change is just a statute number on page 1. Policy 8400 is our school safety policy. Neola actually put this in this volume, but I had come across it and brought it up in an earlier time that the threat assessment protocol that is currently listed in Board Policy 8400 needs to be updated with the current threat assessment that we now use, which is the comprehensive, it's the CSTAG. I just remember the acronym for it. So I just want to make sure that our policy is absolutely up to date with the current threat assessment tool that we do use, which is recommended by the state and adopted by many school districts across the state. And then 6700, we reviewed this, I don't remember if it was the last volume or the volume before. We're just bringing it back around because at that time, we weren't necessarily ready to approve it. I needed to do some follow-up work with our attorney because there were recommended changes. This is the Fair Labor Standards policy. And actually, Katie Seahawk asked about a change, a couple tweaks. One is going from 1 to 2 years as far as, accommodating our staff members that need to,
Express breast milk.
Thank you. Express breast milk during the day. And then also just some language changes. I did contact our district legal counsel and confirm that there's no concerns regarding making those changes. So I just have those as part of the first reading that we go ahead and make those changes. And so I'll take any questions at this time.
It was well done. Yeah.
It was well done. You do a nice job. Thank you, Policy Committee. I know it's not always fun work. Next, we'll move on to building masonry repair.
I'll let Mike take that one.
Not just the food service person.
And I think
That's on today.
I think Katie stole most of your thunder anyway, so I don't know if you just want to take questions or anything like that.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, but basically, we discovered this area, doing a pre-site walkthrough or a pre-bond walkthrough with Plant Moran. And upon their recommendation, we hired McMillan and Associates, which is a consulting firm, to come out and take a look at it. And then for the needed repairs, they put it out to bid. We had one company bid, and that's Ram Construction. They've done previous work in the district at Meridian Elementary, and then about a month and a half ago, they did some work at the auditorium at the high school for a little water issue we had next to the stage there, so.
And that'll be done this summer.
This summer, correct, yep.
And it's sinking fund dollars.
Any other questions for Mike?
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mike? Okay, next on the agenda, I have consent grouping.
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education approve the consent grouping items as presented.
Support.
And this is the payment of the bills for the period of April 1st through April 30th, 2023, in the amount of $1,313,275.64, as well as the approval of the April 25th regular meeting minutes and May 9th work session minutes.
Any comments, discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, under action items, we have Wayne Reese budget approval. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education accept the Wayne Risa General Funding Operating Budget for the 2023-2024 school year be supported.
Support.
Discussion?
None?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the Wayne Risa election representative and candidate selection.
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools nominate, is this one? Am I screwing this up?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
2 in there.
Yes, okay. Nadia Chanova to be the representing member at the Wayne County Regional Education Service Agency election on Monday, June 5th, and I guess I nominate myself as the alternate.
And I'll gladly support that.
Any discussion? Thank you for doing this. Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then there should be next on the candidate, do we list the one with the
alternate
candidate
Matt.
selection
Oh,
in
I
there?
see. Yeah, that's,
Right under that, it's right. It names the 2 candidates
Okay.
that you're going to support.
I also move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education support the designated candidates, Danielle Funderburg and Mary Blackman at that meeting.
support.
They seem to be running unopposed.
Yes.
So,
I don't think there's any much discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have critical incident mapping. Can I have a motion, please?
Move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education approves the selection of Stratasite for critical incident mapping services for the district.
Support.
This is all the schools, the high school, middle school, Meridian, Park Lane, as well as the admin building for a total cost of $16,200.
And the bus garage for no cost.
And yes, plus cost for zero.
You want to just go over real quick in one sentence what that is, just for the public in case somebody's watching?
Yeah, absolutely. So critical incident mapping, we did receive a grant to pay for this. And you can think about it as developing floor plans with the singular focus of safety. So they're going to provide maps of every building in the district that law enforcement will be able to use as well. That lists where every AED is, every fire extinguisher, exterior doors, doors and windows are labeled. It's a part of our safety assessment that we did last year, and it's just part of our safety protocols that we're continuing to work on throughout the district.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is strategic plan targets 2023-24. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education approve the strategic plan goals for 2023 and 2024 as presented.
Support.
Discussions? That was a presentation at our work session. So, any other comments? No?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is termination of contract with Rock Systems LLC. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education terminate the contract with Rock Systems LLC. Is there an effective date?
You can just say as presented.
As presented.
Support.
And this was a contract that we implemented, but due to delays in being able to get the things that we had contracted with them, we're terminating the contract.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is personnel update.
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education approve the personnel update as presented.
Support?
We have 2 retirements, Marie Grapentine and Laura McIntyre, and 1 resignation, Haley Grass. I'd like to say a few words about Laura McIntyre, if I can. I've known Laura for a long time. She's been an inspirational teacher in our district since the day she blessed us with her presence. She flies under the radar, but she is known by all. A free spirit with definite direction, a quiet leader. For all of these years, she has taught our students to be passionate for the arts. Whenever I stopped by her room, there was a certain excitement, enthusiasm, and exhilaration coming from her students. My daughter took her class. twice, and continues to take ceramic classes to this day to express her creativity. Laura taught her that. I find this admirable, getting our students to be lifelong learners. It worked in my family and worked for many others. I thank her for her membership, her mentorship, her leadership, and being the ultimate educator to the students of our district. Laura McIntyre, you are the best, and you'll be missed around the halls. She's great.
Well said.
She's great.
I agree.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Well said. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the 2023-2024 personnel staffing update. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education approves the 2023-2024 personnel as presented.
Or
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, we have the superintendent evaluation. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education adopt a summary evaluation of the superintendent for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Support.
Any more
Few
discussion?
words, I have a couple words for Val. On a roll. Val Orr had a remarkable year. Wave after wave of challenges cropped up, and Mrs. Orr handled each one head-on and found a good solution. She is a great communicator, a great educator, and a great leader. I've been on this board for many years, and I've worked with many superintendents, and you are one of our best. Though she seems to have to make tough decisions all the time, she goes about it with the mantra that I always do what's best for kids. It's simple and it's important, and you do a good job. Thank you for your excellent hires, your strategic plan, your guiding principles, and of course, the bond. Our students are better because of you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Here.
Yeah.
Well said. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, we have the superintendent update.
Okay. Gosh, you made me tear up, Dan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I just first wanted to congratulate Seraphim Dianasopoulos. He has attended many of our board meetings. We all know Seraphim, but he won the National Merit Scholarship, and we are just so proud of him. So proud of him, and I'm sorry that he's not here tonight to see it, but he'll see it on the live stream. Just an amazing accomplishment, and he is definitely just a true representation of how amazing our students are here. I also want to congratulate the cast and crew of Mamma Mia. Super fun to watch. A great musical that we had this year, and so just. Yeah, it was fantastic. They did a great job. You can't help but to sing along with them for Mamma Mia. We also have graduation coming up on June 1st. Just obviously want to congratulate the class of 2023, and we are looking forward to celebrating them. And then there are plenty of end-of-year events happening in every single building. There are a ton. So make sure you're checking our website. Go and click on the school. I just keep reminding people that when you go to the website, you have to click on the individual schools, and that'll help you see events that are planned, and just encourage everyone to wrap up the school year, and we're almost ready for summer. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will be going into closed session, so for the purpose MCL 15.268C for collective bargaining. So I'll take a roll call.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you guys need a 2-minute break? I'm fine. You're okay? Good. Thank you, Judy, for coming.